Explain the French alliance and the diplomacy of Benjamin Franklin and John Adams. The French alliance was an agreement with France, Spain, and the Netherlands in order to secure their alliance against Great Britain during the Revolutionary War. The French helped the most with not only financial assistance but also putting boots on the ground in America in order to help the military effort against the British. Spain and the Netherlands only provided financial assistance, which was very important but did not have as great of an impact as the French did on the American Revolution. Without the French, the American militia were completely outnumbered, outgunned, and outtrained. Benjamin Franklin and John Adams were the main reasons that Spain, France, and the Netherlands came to help the cause of the Patriots. Diplomats like Benjamin Franklin and John Adams were tasked with traveling to different countries around the world and convincing them to join the cause of the American Revolution, and obviously, they did a good job. Not only that, but both of these people are in the Committee of Five.
What were the roles of women, Indians, and African Americans supporting the war effort? Women did many things to help the war effort. They were the Americans' main source of spies because they insisted on traveling with the men. For example, if one woman's husband was going to war, then she would travel with him. And instead of just having her sit at the camp and do nothing, they used them as spies and chefs and nurses. Not only that, but the Daughters of Liberty helped to find alternative food and clothing sources for people still living in the colonies. But the women weren't the only people who helped. So did the Native Americans and the slaves. The Native Americans and slaves believed that they would be granted freedom in exchange for helping the fight to the British. They thought that if they helped to defeat the British, then the president, who eventually would be George Washington, would set them all free. But this also went both ways for the Indians, and some of them thought that Great Britain was going to win the war and helped out the British. So it helped and hurt the Americans. Explain George Washington as a military leader, along with the influence of Baron von Steuben, the Marquis de Lafayette, and the importance of Valley Forge in the creation of a professional military. George Washington was not only our first president, but also one of the greatest military leaders in United States history. Washington's first United States duty was to become a part of the Continental Army in 1775. This was after incredible successes leading other organizations. One of those organizations being Washington was a British leader who helped win the French and Indian War. Washington then reorganized the training program of the Continental Army and gained the respect of not only his peers but his soldiers too. Baron von Steuben and Marquis de Lafayette were integral parts of Washington's success in cold winter months. Von Steuben was a Persian and de Lafayette was from France. Although from very different countries, they arrived at Valley Forge at the same time in order to help train soldiers in the winter months. Valley Forge ended up being crucial for the success of this army. The role of Thomas Jefferson and the Committee of Five have a huge impact on the argument of the Declaration of Independence. There are also many organization techniques and intellectual sources used in the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson was the main writer of the Declaration of Independence. He was one of the 5 members of the Committee of Five, and he was assigned to create a specific statement. This statement was used to notify the British of the Continental Congress's decision to become independent from Great Britain's rule. The Committee of Five were 5 elected delegates elected by the Continental Congress in order to attain independence. The Committee of Five contained Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, Roger Sherman, and Robert R. Livingston. All members of the Committee of Five signed the Declaration of Independence when it was finished. The Declaration of Independence was divided into 5 distinct segments, and each segment addressed a particular issue. The five segments being the introduction, the preamble, the indictment of King George, the criticism of the British people, and the conclusion.
What was the role of geography at the battles of Trenton, Saratoga, and Yorktown? The Battle of Trenton was a huge boost of morale for the United States of America. On December 25th and 26th, the state of Delaware became a war zone as Washington led his troops in a surprise attack against the Hessians. This victory was decisive. The Hessians didn't stand a chance, and this showed off the power of the American army. Hessians were Germans who were hired to work for the British Army. The Battle of Saratoga was another crucial battle in the war because of its geographical location. Depending on who won the battle, this could wedge between the British forces and was believed to win the war. The British and General John Burgoyne were later trapped and lost the battle, yet the war wasn't over. The Battle of Yorktown was the end of the Revolutionary War. The British plan was to separate the southern colonies. Eventually, the Americans finally won not only the battle, but the war as well. What is the significance of the Treaty of Paris? The Treaty of Paris was signed in Paris by representatives of King George III of Great Britain and representatives of the United States of America on September 3, 1783. The Treaty of Paris ended the Revolutionary War, and it stated that the U.S. had won. There were many provisions for the Treaty of Paris. Great Britain recognized its former American colonies as an independent nation. The western boundary of the United States was to be the Mississippi River. Fishing rights off the coast of Newfoundland were guaranteed to the United States, and pre-war debts owed by Americans to British merchants would be paid.
Your mind must flower.
It's great to learn.
'Cause knowledge is power.
It's Schoolhouse Rocket, the chip on the block of your favorite Schoolhouse Rock. How would you like to hear the shot heard round the world?
The British are coming, the British are coming.
Now the ride of Paul Revere set the nation on its ear, and the shot at Lexington heard round the world. When the British fired in the early dawn, the War of Independence had begun. The die was cast, the rebel flag unfurled, and on to Concord marched the foe to seize the arsenal there, you know, waking folks and searching all around, till our militia stopped them in their tracks. At the old North Bridge we turned them back and chased those redcoats back to Boston town. And the shot heard round the world was the start of the revolution. The Minutemen were ready on the move. Take your powder, take your gun, report to General Washington. Hurry, men, there's not an hour to lose. Now at famous Bunker Hill, even though we lost, it was quite a thrill. The rebel Colonel Prescott proved he was wise, outnumbered and low on ammunition as the British stormed his position. He said, hold your fire till you see the whites of their eyes. Though the next few years were rough, General Washington's men proved they were tough. Those hungry, ragged boys would not be beat. One night they crossed the Delaware, surprised the Hessians in their lair, and at Valley Forge they just bundled up their feet. Now the shot heard round the world was the start of the revolution. The Minutemen were ready on the move. Take your blanket, take your sun, report to General Washington. We've got our rights and now it's time to prove. Well, they showed such determination that they won the admiration of countries across the sea like France and Spain. who loaned the colony ships and guns and put the British on the run and the Continental Army on its feet again. And though they lost some battles too, the Americans swore they see it through. Their raiding parties kept up hit and run. At Yorktown, the British could not retreat, bottled up by Washington and the French fleet. Cornwallis surrendered, and finally we had won.